Hey guys, welcome back. This is going to be practice 3 for the area model multiplication strategy. And all you're going to need for this is, again, a piece of paper and something to write with. Remember, I like to use multiple colors so I can color code and stay organized. If you have colors, you may do that as well, or a pen or pencil will do just fine. All right, so on your paper, you can go ahead and write 202 times 35. Remember, you can pause the video at any time you want, and you can work ahead and then unpause to go ahead and check with me. But you may be asking yourself why I did a 2 by 2 box this time. So I want you to think about that. Even though I have a 3-digit by a 2-digit, why would I have done a 2 by 2 box? If you're still wondering about this, go ahead and keep asking yourself that question. But maybe this will answer it once we put our numbers into expanded form. So if you want to pause the video and expand 202 and 35, you can do that. But when we expand 202, I'm going to look at my hundreds place, which is a 200. My tens place, which is just a 0. So you know what? I'm actually not going to write that out. And then my ones place, which is a 2. And I know that 200 plus 2 does equal 202. Now I'm going to go ahead and expand 35. Looking at my tens place, I have a 3, which has a value of 30. And in my ones place, the 5 just has a value of 5. And again, I can check, yes, 30 plus 5 does equal 35. So now my two numbers that I'm multiplying have been expanded, and I'm ready to label my area model box. So remember, it doesn't matter whether you want to use 202 across the top or whether you want to represent that down the side. That is completely up to you. And in this case, it doesn't matter, especially since we have a 2 by 2 box. So if you want to go ahead and pause this video and label your area model box, you may do that. I am going to write 202 across the top. I'm going to represent it on the top. So I always want to start with my largest place value again in the left. So my largest place value in 202 is my hundreds place, and that has a value of 200. So I'm going to write 200 on the top, and I'm going to put a check mark so that I remember I used that. Then the only other place value I have is my ones place, which is a 2. So I'm going to put my 2 above the orange box. All right, now I have represented the number 202 in this problem, so all I need to do is represent 35, and I'll represent that down the left side. So again, I'm going to start with my largest place value, which in this case is my tens place. So I'm going to put 30 next to my blue box. I used that. And the only number I have left to represent is 5 for my ones place in 35. All right, I have checked that I have represented all of my numbers up here, so now I need to fill in the area model box. If you want to go ahead and work ahead of me, you may pause the video and go ahead and multiply to get the products of each individual box. Okay, I'm going to start with the blue box. Again, it really doesn't matter where you start, but I'm going to start here, and I'm going to look up and then to my left to see what numbers I need to multiply. So looking up, I see a 200. So I'm going to take 200, and to my left, I see 30. 200 times 30. Well, I know that 2 times 3 equals 6. And then I see that this number, I have 100, and then another 0. So I know that this needs to be 1,000 times greater. So 1,000 times greater than the number 6 is going to be 6,000. And that's a comma. 6,000. All right. Remember, I like to do this. In order to stay organized, I'm going to write what my blue box was down here for later. So I said the product of my blue box, 200 times 30, was 6,000. I'm going to write that down here. Blue equals 6,000. All right, I'm going to move to the right because we read left to right. So I'm going to move here. I'm going to look up, and I see that it is a 2. And then I'm going to look to the left and I see that that is 300. So I know I need to do, or I'm sorry, 30. I know I need to do 2 times 30. You might know this off the top of your head, or again, you might see, yes, 2 times 3 is 6, and that needs to be 10 times larger because 30 is 10 times larger than that 3 that we multiplied by. So 10 times larger than 6 is 60. Okay. Now again, to stay organized, I'm going to take the product from this orange box, and I am going to write it down here. So the product of my orange box was 60. All right, looking at this pink box, I'm going to look up to see 200. And I'm going to look to the left to see that I need to multiply that 200 by 5. All right. 2 times 5 is 10. And then I see that this wasn't really a 2, this was a 200. So 10 needs to be 100 times larger, making that 1,000. 200 5 times is 1,000. I'm going to put my product of my pink box down here. So pink is 1,000. And then I just have one more box to find the product of. So I'm going to look up and see that that is a 2 and multiply it by the digit to the left, which is a 5. And oh, I know that 2 times 5 is 10. So that's the last number I need to put down here is 10. And then you can double check that if you did this on your own, that you have these same products from your area model box. And then we know once we have filled out our entire area model box and we've represented each portion or each place value, we are going to find the sum. If you have someone sitting next to you, go ahead and tell them what sum means again. What operation does sum represent? And if you said addition, you are correct. So remember, this is where I would tell my kids work smarter, not harder. I want to find some friendly numbers rather than just doing standard algorithm and lining them all up. So if you want to pause this video, you may, and then check with me on your final product. But right off the bat, I see 2 friendly numbers here, 6,000 plus 1,000. I can add that in my head, and I know that is 7,000. So I've used those. So again, I want to stay organized because if I add the same number twice, we won't get the correct product. So I've used these 2. Now all I have left is 10 and 60. And how nice. Those are friendly numbers too. I know that 10 plus 60 in my head is 70. All right, I've used those 2 numbers. So I've added all of these. However, I still have to find the sum of these 2 numbers. So it's really important you don't forget that. Luckily, we can add those in our head. 7,000 plus 70 equals 7,070. So now I know that 202 times 35 equals 7,070. How'd you do?